It doesn't matter.
No, valet park. Just valet. Hell, I might even bring the Porsche up, actually, now that I think about it.
Well, why wouldn't you?
I mean, why not? I mean, there's no reason to drive the truck. I mean, there's no reason to drive basically the range truck with all the ammo and guns in it and then valet it. I mean, I might as well just take the Porsche. That's what it's for, right?
Yeah, I won't bring the Lambo, though.
Okay, well, I understand. I mean, people listening to us right now would think we're the douchiest gun channel on the internet.
If they only knew.
If they only knew.
It's like I have to save up to go out on quarter beer night.
On this episode of the John1911 Podcast, Danny does a victory lap. First reports are almost always wrong. Will Pennsylvania succumb to tomfoolery, Paul Pelosi, and the Illuminati?
Okay, good evening, everybody. This is Danny and Marky, and this is episode 277 of the John1911 Podcast. It is Friday, November 4th, 8:20 p.m. I don't know how my life has turned out that I'm sitting on a podcast with Danny at 8 o'clock on a Friday night instead of out howling at the moon and doing whatever I used to do when I was 20, but that's what old men do now. On the Friday night, we're going to have a Friday night podcast getting ready for the political silly season, so...
Yeah, you call yourself old. I have underwear older than you are.
Is there about 20-year difference between us?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, there's a 25-year difference between me and Doc.
Yeah, well, we might be old, but we're crafty.
Yeah, Doc is 75, so he'll be 76 in January. So, well, you know what? Hey, before we before we get into it, because I don't know, we were talking about it before we went live, because this is going to be a very, very politics-heavy podcast, and I don't want it to be so dour and sour, but I've been working out my retirement plans for the future, and I've decided that I think I'm going to have Nick Cannon's 13th baby, and then I can be set for life, and I can, that'll be my retirement plan. Apparently, if you can have Nick Cannon's baby, he'll pay for everything for you forever. So,
well, that's a plan because according to liberals and some Democrats, there's no such thing as a woman, and males can have babies. So hey, why not go for it?
Well, have you heard that Nick Cannon now they're like he's his 12th baby now? I guess like there's a woman. I think there was a woman who had a baby of his, and the baby died. A real sad story this past winter, I guess. And so he went and got her knocked up again so she could have another baby. Like he's intentionally impregnating women, and they're agreeing to it. It's the damnedest thing. I don't know what the plan is here, but apparently all these women are on board. They're getting checks. So one thing is for certain, Nick Cannon will never retire because he's got to pay all these women off for the rest of his life.
Well, you got to look at it this way. They got, the free ticket to Life of Riley, and some women, they figure, hey, well, maybe some men too, but a good dickin' is always good for a lickin'.
Oh God, Life of Riley and Nick Cannon in the same sentence. Okay, okay, all right. You know what? I before we get, because I'm almost like dreading politics, but because we're so politics heavy.
Why? I got a mammoth heart on just thinking about it.
Danny is hot to trot for Nancy. He's hot to trot like Paul Pelosi, apparently.
You mean Pivot Man and the Circle Jerk?
So did you hear that? That NBC did a
Come
report.
on, get your train of thought here.
NBC did a report saying that, Paul Pelosi answered the door, turned around, went back in to the guy with the hammer, and then got whacked by the hammer.
Yes,
then NBC pulled this report down. Oh, that's not suspicious.
No, but it is still on. Oh shit! Brain freeze already for the old man. Not Twitter. It's on
UK Daily Mail,
where you watch all the videos. I can't even. Oh, YouTube.
YouTube.
It's still on YouTube. Yeah, the NBC story and post is still there. At least it was as of 5 minutes ago.
You know what? I'm going to have to find it because I actually haven't seen the report.
I have, and it was from a local affiliate. It was not from the big boys out of New York and Washington.
Because I heard that they even put a disclaimer up and they said they took this down because it didn't meet our journalistic standards. And it's like, oh yeah, like the girl that said that she's a reporter and she had a conversation with Fetterman and came back and reported. It wasn't clear to me that he understood everything that I was saying, and they wanted to freaking destroy this woman. And she's a good little commie lib, I'm sure, news reporter, and they wanted to destroy her for telling the truth.
Well, how dare you speak the truth?
And then, a week later, he goes on to the Fetterman goes on to the debate with Oz and can't string two sentences together.
Exactly.
Almost as bad as you and me right now. So I mean, it's just
yeah, but ours isn't. Hey, look, the Fetterman, the poor guy, he had a stroke. Personally, the people that are pushing him, if he loses, you know how they all care about, the Democrats all care about him now, the sympathy, this or that. If Fetterman was to lose, that guy is dust in the wind. He's pushed to the wayside, and the Democrats won't even know his name.
So here's the thing. Okay, let's talk about Fetterman for a minute, because there's some real political analysis. There's a lot of room here for some real political analysis just on Fetterman, and I'm not even done, and I'll get to Oz in a minute. So if my recollection is correct, Fetterman suffered the stroke about a week before the primary voting date. And
Correct.
They decided to hide it. And it was bad. It was a bad stroke. And they could have very easily, the Fetterman family, maybe the wife, I don't know, could have been like, look, he's had a stroke. We're having person. We have to focus on our family right now. We're going to take a break. They could have easily chosen another candidate that would have been just fine. Probably would have beaten Oz, and everything would have been hunky dory with them. But they're so selfish. And they're so power hungry, and maybe the wife, and I don't know how out of it Fetterman was. Fetterman was in no shape, obviously, when he had the stroke to decide that he's like, I need to get out of this. And they just kept pushing him along and pushing him along. And if Oz wins in Pennsylvania, number one, it'll be a miracle, and it'd be the Fetterman's fault, because they could have very easily just had somebody else. They had other candidates. And the thing is, too, they chose Fetterman. They chose Fetterman because he was supposed to be more like a Bernie Sanders kind of, populist kind of borderline commie Democrat, right? And that was
everyday guy.
Yeah, he's like, that's the thing. Like, apparently now, everyday Joe American is now apparently a communist, which is not true. Okay, so they chose this guy, and that's what they had to have him. And then what does he do? So they made him go through all this stuff. They made him go through all the crap with this. It's embarrassing. Like, he can't function. He's going to be crippled. I don't mean crippled's not the right word because it's not appropriate. It can be confusing. Look, he could, in 5 years or in 4 years or however many years, he could be perfectly fine.
Or he could be more incapacitated.
Well, no, but my point is he could be perfect. Let me finish. He could be perfectly fine. He could have bowed out before the primary. Okay? He could have gotten his shit together, gone through rehab, taken care of himself, and then come back in a couple years and ran for the other Senate seat or something else. And he would have not missed a beat. But now we have an entire silly season of him looking like he's incapacitated on camera nonstop. I mean, they have the people, the political consultants. I blame two people. I blame the political consultants that are selfish as fuck, that were getting paid a lot of money to drag this guy literally across the finish line, and his wife putting this man out.
Yes,
Yeah,
she's the one that I think is
yeah.
really pushing him.
But you know what? But you know what? Now hold on. That's true. And she seems like she's kind of a social climber. She's a true, she's a true commie, and that's fine, and she wants the power. But the reality is that the political consultants and the professionals that were around Fetterman when they came in from this campaign could have very easily, even if she was like, "We are not quitting," they could have very easily gone out and had, sotto voce stories leaked and, talked to the rest of the Democratic Party and been like, "Motherfucker can't run. You can't let this happen." And the word could have gone out and they could have cleaned this up. Just like they did with Joe Biden. They went around with Joe Biden during the primaries and they basically, it was a hostage video on every one of them. They went around and basically said, "You're out of the race tomorrow. You're out of the race in 3 days." And all of a sudden they cleared the field. They cleared the field by the time they were coming out of Connecticut or New Hampshire. And, they basically told all these other candidates to get the hell out of this because they're going to give it to Joe. They could have very easily done this with Fetterman. And that nobody's talking about this. The Democratic Party, either nationally or definitely in Pennsylvania, has fucked this whole thing up. And it's to my benefit that they have, because the reality is, in my opinion, and I'm not trying to shit on Pennsylvania too much, Dr. Oz is, number one, he's a terrible candidate. He's a terrible candidate. Pennsylvania, for Republicans, sucks because there's a lot of corruption in Pennsylvania. I've been having to hear about Pennsylvania for 30 years, about how Pennsylvania, Republicans are going to come out of Pennsylvania. Republicans go there to die because they're so corrupt. If Oz isn't up by over 6 points, like 6.3, 6.5, this is my opinion, 6.3, 6.5%, they'll steal it from him. He can't win the election because it'll be that whole 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh, we have a bunch of votes in, for Fetterman. And then what they'll do is, if Fetterman wins, I still think Fetterman is highly likely to win in Pennsylvania just because I think they're so corrupt. And then they'll just make that woman the senator. They're already angling for it.
Yeah, that's true. But you talk about how the Democrats or whoever, they're trying to drag Fetterman across the line. What I think, to me, is the most laughable story is how these multimillionaire Democrat candidates have pumped millions into the primaries for Republicans so the hardcore Republican deniers would win their primaries, go on to the general, and then these Democrats that put the money in thought that, hey, we'll win easily because nobody will elect the denier.
Well, it's the election deniers. It's interesting because the mainstream Democratic Party is running on the idea that democracy is in trouble, which it's not. Democracy's in trouble, and these are election deniers, and these people are crazy. But the secret is, in a lot of these cases, when it was neck and neck between kind of a more mainstream Republican and a what they would call an election denier or whatever, they went ahead and put money towards what they perceived to be the crazy guy. So the crazy guy or girl would win, and then they could supposedly beat them more easily in the general. And they're not getting blamed for getting these people winning the nomination if they're saying the Republicans did it. Now here's the thing. Let's be real. The Republicans have done the same thing in the past.
Oh, I'm sure they have. But this time around, it seems to be blowing up more so into the Democrats' face. It really does, because there's 4 out of 6 Senate candidates that are deniers, supposedly, that the Democrats put a lot of money into them to win the primary. And now those 4 out of 6 Republicans are leading in the polls.
They're winning. And, it's like, be careful what you wish for, Democrats, because guess what happened? The Republicans did this in the not too distant past. Do you remember Rush Limbaugh and the Republicans talking about Operation Chaos? Do you remember that phrase?
Yes, I do.
Operation Chaos? Do you
Yes, I
recall
do.
what it was?
Yes, to basically the same thing, and to get chaos amongst the Democrat voters so the Republicans would win.
No. Operation Chaos was primarily orchestrated by Rush Limbaugh. Because he had 25 million listeners. During the Democratic primaries, there were a lot of states that they were open primaries or non-affiliated primaries. You could go in and vote in a primary, and you didn't really
without declaring.
You didn't have to show party affiliation. And so I don't know if Iowa was one. I don't remember how it all worked, but Rush Limbaugh was advocating for people to go in. He was trying to fuck Hillary, and this guy Barack Hussein Obama was starting to get a little bit of traction, and so he was telling his voters or his listeners, and whatever primary is going to happen on this, and do this, and then go in there and vote for Obama, this Obama guy, just to fuck Hillary, just to keep Obama alive. Because Hillary doesn't come in first, she comes in second, and it was they called it Operation Chaos. And guess what ended up happening? Barack Obama got the nomination and became president. You should never play these games.
Speaking of that, did you see Hillary is out? And did you actually listen to her so-called soapbox speech today by chance?
No, I mean I know they.
No. This is classic. Hillary is blaming the Republicans for using scare tactics about crime, and there is no such animal, that there is no crime, that it's just the Republicans doing witch doctor shit.
Yeah, that's. I mean, look, you can always count on Hillary. Hillary Clinton is like the who's the guy who was there was the show Anchorman.
She's the swallows of Capistrano. She returns every spring.
Yeah, I know, but she's the Ted, not Ted Bundy, but Ron Burgundy. Like he will literally read exactly, and obviously Joe Biden is. He'll read, the teleprompter wrong. He'll read it character by character. But, about the last 10 days before an election or something, the usual suspects, they can get these high-end Democrats to come out and say anything. Like, say this. Oh, yeah. Say the Martians are influencing the election.
Did you see Oprah came out and she created Oz on her show? Now she endorsed Fetterman today.
Is that a surprise?
No, not whatsoever.
How is that a story?
I'm just, for our listeners, I'm just bringing up, what had happened today.
Oh, no.
Again, but not, wait a minute. I have the pièce de résistance of scare tactics by Democrats. Did you see what Congressman Claiborne came out and said today?
I should probably talk about Jim Claiborne in the same breath that I talk about Kanye West, because they're both bigots.
Right, but here's the best one to me.
Jim Claiborne.
You're right. Heck with what Hillary said, what Oprah said, what Obama making the rounds. Claiborne said, anybody that votes or tries to elect a Republican is throwing this country back into 1930s Germany, and it's going to be the same outcome as what Hitler did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are the same people that a week ago were saying we need to turn down the political rhetoric of politics of personal destruction because we don't want people attacking, spouses of sitting members of Congress with hammers. Yeah, this is the same people.
how about the North Carolina candidate for congressman? They shot through his window with his two little girls in there. Did you see that? He's a
I
Green
saw
Beret.
I saw the story. Yeah.
I mean,
It,
it's like how the rhetoric. Of course, we all know it's bad, but it only seems that the mainstream media, especially because of the Pelosi, thing that happened, is blowing it up totally against Republicans. Why don't the mainstream media say in the Pelosi case, hey, the guy was a known criminal. The guy was arrested before. The guy is an illegal alien, but because of sanctuary city status, he's back on the streets. But no, that never seems to come out, does it?
well, it's coming out in the election results. I mean, they're okay. Okay, look, this is not unrelated, but it's going to seem like I'm shifting gears here, but I really am not. We're staying on politics. CNBC announced yesterday that they are letting Shepard Smith go from his evening program on CNBC. And if you don't really listen to CNBC or watch CNBC, it's basically the business channel. It's the Wall
Why?
Street
Because
channel.
of ratings.
Well, yeah, Shepard Smith is not a business guy. Shepard Smith was at Fox News. Remember Shepard Smith?
Oh yes,
That
very much so.
yeah, that's Shepard Smith. He's
But
kind of
but
a
he
funny,
turned
weird.
he turned liberal.
He's always been liberal, but he lost his mind when Trump was running for president, and he just started going bonkers. And so he ended up getting a job over at CNBC, and CNBC's like, yeah, we're going to put Shep on at 7 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock at night to talk about some kind of political stuff. And it's like, yeah, people switch to CNBC. When I switch to CNBC, I'm trying to find out a business story. And I consume CNBC. I consume CNBC a lot more than I consume Fox Business. I'll tell you that right now. Like Stuart Varney and Fox. Stuart Varney doesn't on Fox Business. Like if I need some information that's going on in business, Stuart Varney sitting there saying the same shit that they say on Fox News about politics doesn't do me any good in that moment. I'm like, motherfucker, go to fucking CNBC. What's going on with this? Because I want some analysis on something specific. And, CNBC tried to do a Stuart Varney, and they were like, yeah, this shit don't work. They fired him. And my point is, why don't they tell the story about the crime or the whatever? Well, the reality is, it's being told, and it's showing up in the polls. Everyone's scared to death of crime. Everyone ran on this whole, defund the police. Let's burn down these cities because we're mad at Trump. And mind you, I want to say this because this came up recently because I kind of got yelled at in the office just casually because I had mentioned, because we're in Cincinnati, and so there's a lot of people that work over here that are Cincinnati Bengals fans. And, they're all super excited because they've got a couple guys that are, they can play football. And, I guess, they've been having issues or whatever this year. And people listening know more than I do. And I made some comment about something, and I was like, man, I really enjoy this more than the Bengals. And I just meant it like I was giving a compliment to something that was in front of me. And I got chastised later for it, for like, why do you have to keep slamming the Bengals? And it's like, I wasn't slamming the Bengals. I thought I was giving a compliment, but it's being received to the local people as if I'm slamming the Bengals. Now, what does this have to do with anything, with what we're talking about? Before the cities burned, and it became popular to tear down, especially the black neighborhoods, the football players were all taking a knee acting like jerks. And then it all kind of spiraled out of there. I feel like the riots and the burning and this, let's act like fools, even though we're supposed to be doing our jobs. Let's act like fools because Donald Trump's president. And that, to me, that started with the NFL. And I never have gotten over that. I don't obsess on it. I was never a fan of I'm not their customer. So it's not like, oh, they lost Marky. I was never their customer. But, don't kid yourself, NFL, John Goodell, and the rest of you fools. I think you guys are a bunch of fucking assholes. And
That's what Carrie. That's what Carrie Lake told him.
Oh, good. I don't know.
Did you see that?
No, no. I
Well,
know. She
the
seems
Super.
interesting to me. I do like her.
Oh, I do too. The Super Bowl is supposed to be in Phoenix this year,
Oh.
and she told Roger Goodell and all of those straight out, look, if you think you're going to pull this shit after you already got contracts with the city and the state, you just because I were to get in, you got another thought coming, buddy. And Roger Goodell had his tail between his legs.
Good.
She straightened him up, and this was on national TV. She
Well-
goes, I don't play that shit.
Well, she's a senator. She's running for senator?
She ran for governor.
Governor. Oh, so she has power. That's right.
Yes, she does.
It's Kelly versus the other guy. Oh, yeah.
Right. She's running for governor, and I think her quote was, you remember when they moved the All-Star game out of Atlanta because of Stacey Abrams?
Yeah.
You remember that? Well, she basically said, look, I'm no Stacey Abrams. And I guess let's just say the NFL sure didn't like that.
Yeah, more black people voted in Georgia than any other time in history, and turns out they moved this stuff out of Atlanta and hurt all these small businesses, most of them inner city, urban Atlanta businesses, right. And they got egg on their face, and it's like, you know what, you guys, I mean, look, I can right now I can say it's, Democrats acting like fools. I'm not happy with Republicans so much either. Like when Donald Trump was president and those people were trying to burn down St. John's across the street from the White House, I'd have been over there shooting motherfuckers as president. Like, you can't do that. You're the president. I'd be like, well, I've said this very thing on this podcast.
It's funny that you said that, because today the Washington, D.C. City Council voted to allow cashless bail.
Yay, that's great. But it's like, I mean, it's like, all right, okay, it's like, all this bullshit goes on, and like there's no Trump. I'd have been like, well, I have a security detail, and they have to go where I go, and I'm getting in the middle of the fire. So I guess y'all better show up with your guns to protect me. And it's like, when Donald Trump was president, this is why I can't be president. There's a lot of reasons why I can't be president, but one of the big reasons is it's like, okay, I'm the president of the United States. It's President Marky. Okay. I don't care if I'm Republican or Democrat. Every night I turn on the television and I see crowds of people trying to burn down the federal courthouse or the federal building in like Portland or Seattle, wherever that was out there. And it's like, are you telling me I, as president, my federal government cannot protect and defend a single known federal property identifiable target? I'd be like, you want to bet? Because I'd have been like, okay, send out HRT. You see anybody with a Molotov cocktail? Sniper, shoot him in the fucking head. Anybody picks up that Molotov cocktail? Shoot them in the fucking leg. Oh, we can't do that because, the optics. That's fine. You know what? If there's 3 guys with Molotov cocktails, shoot the white one first. It'll have the same fucking effect. And I'd have cleaned that shit up. I don't care who you fucking are. It's president or police chief, Republican or Democrat. This crime issue, letting fools burn down cities, letting fools tear up Capitol Hill, it's like, no. Nuh-uh. No. Criminals go to jail. Rioters need to be arrested, and violent looters need to be shot. There's my presidential campaign.
Well, we talked about this a couple of years ago when we said, why is it you only see the rioters, the burning buildings, the looting, all the other big stuff in Democrat-ran cities? You go down south, and you and I both know you don't see that shit because people will shoot them.
They'll shoot you. Well,
they will
because
shoot you
yeah,
right in your tracks.
because it's for their own it's for their own political gain that they let this happen. So then they can create a crisis and never let a crisis go to waste.
That's true.
You know,
I'm,
it's like the guys that burn down the black neighborhood in some town don't burn down the equivalent of the Beverly Hills of that town.
no, no. What you just said is exactly what Clybourne is trying to fearmonger into people. I guess we're all gonna. I guess anybody that votes Republican, upon your voting, when instead of I voted, you're going to be issued a brown shirt.
Well, oh, by the way, let's turn down the rhetoric. By the way, if you're not a Democrat, you're a Nazi. Okay, yeah, remember, like all these people want to burn down these cities, and now they're all like, why is there crime out of control? Who's the woman? Who's the Democratic congresswoman that doesn't even technically live in the district that she represents in California? That was saying you need to get in people's faces. You remember that woman? Danny, you there? Maxine Waters was her name. Remember Maxine Waters?
Yeah, she doesn't live in her district.
She's the one that was like, you need to get in their face, and you need to confront them, and you need to do this, and you need to make them not be comfortable, and you need to let them know, and all this. And it's like, oh yeah, so here we are now, Maxine.
Oh yeah.
People
Double
bashing,
standard.
shooting people, shooting at congressmen, candidates through their plate glass windows, and supposedly random politically motivated nudist colony people are breaking into Paul Pelosi's house.
Yeah. Oh, there came out more on that today also. Supposedly, when Mr. Paul called 911, he did not say that he was in trouble. And he identified the guy as a friend. Somebody had to, I still say somebody opened the door for the police to get in.
Well,
and the glass was broken from the inside out. But that's what I heard.
I mean, I've seen the glass. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, the glass collapses. I don't know. I mean, all that's going to be on video.
No, nobody was watching.
No, but it's no. It's recorded. It's recorded.
You will never see that.
Oh, you won't see it till after she's out of office, and then it'll be like, move along, nothing to see here, old news. Come on, let's move along.
Those are buried with Watergate tapes.
It's like Hillary Clinton and every rest of it. What we still talking about this? Can't we just move along?
I'm telling you, those videos are in the bottom of the Chappaquiddick River with in an Oldsmobile trunk.
Yeah, so
I hope our younger viewers understand what we're talking about.
They have no idea. They think Ted Kennedy's the bassist player for the Dead Kennedys. They have no idea what Chappaquiddick is.
Or the 68 Oldsmobile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, I guess tongue-in-cheek, what the point I'm trying to make is, come on, that's the Speaker of a House's home with all those monitors and surveillance, and out of nowhere, no one was watching at that instant. I'm sure when a door opens at 2:30 in the morning, because I've seen it in my government agency, you get an alert. It's on the screen. But what, the guy was out taking a leak or ran to Dunkin' Donuts at that time?
I can. Couple of things here. I do have a little bit of perspective on the protective detail for the Speaker of the House, and people have to realize, number one, Nancy Pelosi wasn't there. The Speaker wasn't in residence. The Speaker was in somewhere else. I think she was in Washington, but she wasn't there. So her security detail wasn't there. It's her personal residence. It's not the White House. Also, you have to understand, and people don't believe what I'm about to say. And I'm sure it's more than it used to be. But Nancy Pelosi does not the Speaker of the House does not walk around with the same kind of security detail that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have. Not even close. Not even in the same universe.
It's pretty sizable because when Denny Hassert was Speaker of the House, who I happen to know very well, and I actually went by his home when he was Speaker uh, for some, let's just say, some political events.
Gay
There was
rest,
a
was it gay wrestling night? What was it? No, what was
yeah
what did he get in trouble for? Is he the one that
uh,
was
the locker rooms with the kids,
the locker rooms
supposedly.
with the kids? Yeah.
But the point being is, there was a shitload of security, federal security in that house. In fact, my name had to be on a list to even get in there.
You were there for a function.
Yes.
So
that I was invited to.
Yeah, so it was a function. They had to beef up security because they had more people.
It was only like 20 people, but I mean, it was there. My point being is, there were a whole lot of people with curly wires coming out of their ears.
Yes, and so okay, let me tell you how it works around here. So we've had the Speaker of the House here, John Boehner, and I know where Boehner's house was. It's not there anymore because he moved to Washington. When he was in town, he had a detail, small footprint detail. There would be a car parked in front of his house, and he had some people, and he would be flown. Traditionally, the Speaker of the House is also flown around on U.S. government aircraft. I'm not going to say necessarily military, but they are flown around on U.S. government aircraft. It depends on. Nancy Pelosi tends to fly on a pretty decent airplane because she's got to cross the country. That's the difference with John Boehner can fly from Cincinnati to Washington straight in an hour. And Nancy Pelosi's got to fly across the entire country. So
that's a 6-hour flight.
Yeah, if you can if depending if you don't have to fly in the predefined flow of commercial traffic and go north before you go east and that kind of thing, it can shave a lot of time. But so they have aircraft because it's the continuity of government stuff. Like they have to know for succession where the speaker is, in case you're under attack and things need to, whatever. But it's not like she's a part of the executive branch and there's that much security. There is security. And apparently she had more security than Boehner ever had. Because what happens here, because I know it from the SWAT team, what happens here is if there's a function, a fundraiser, or whatever, they will do a detail. Typically, they'll pull it in from a local jurisdiction PD, and they'll supplement it with members of the SWAT team. Maybe they'll bring snipers in for extra coverage, and they'll get paid to work a night around a house for a fundraiser. Some senators coming in, but there's not snipers and this zoned protection, counter assault force around Nancy Pelosi at all times. There just is not. It's just not that much. And by virtue of what happened here, I'm proven correct. So apparently, I don't believe John Boehner had live camera feeds going back to Washington when he was Speaker of the House. Which is fine. Apparently, Nancy, but January 6th and, all the other stuff, they've been spending more money. She's probably got more security than maybe Boehner had back in the day. So, yeah, she got some cameras and maybe some people. But, well, Danny, wait till it comes out. Nancy Pelosi, it comes out, she's like, don't you dare watch my house when I'm not there. You can record it and you can have the alarm system. But I don't want you sitting there looking at the cameras, looking at my husband. Yeah, I mean, you never know what's going to come out of this. Some flunky in the bottom of the Capitol building's like, yeah, we were told, we were given 60 cameras to look at all these different people, and we're not to watch him.
Here's the part that I have the hardest time fathoming of the whole Paul Pelosi thing. Before he was hit with a hammer, he's standing there, the perpetrator's standing there, and the police officers are standing there. Now, with 2 or 3 police officers there, then the perpetrator walks across the room with a hammer and hits Pelosi in the head in front of the police. Police said they tackled him. Every damn cop that I've ever worked with, they're going to cuff that son of a bitch first and question him. They're not going to let him be holding a hammer.
Well, a couple of things. We've heard different versions of the story, and I don't mean the, the cover-up stories. I mean, first reports are almost always wrong. I don't think we know exactly what happened. I think we're starting to get an idea. I feel like the story of they got a call, they showed up, Pelosi opened the door and let the dudes in, and then walked back into the house, and then maybe they were wrestling over the hammer, and the guy was able to crack Pelosi once or twice before they could tackle him or shoot him. Maybe they couldn't shoot him because Pelosi's in the way. I don't know, and none of us know. But I'm not going to hang my hat on a particular detail of a story that keeps changing because people are either lying or covering stuff up. I'm just going to note all of it and remember, first reports are almost always wrong. And I'm just going to wait and see what comes out because
we'll never know. The truth will never be told.
I think the chances of that are minuscule. I mean, they can't even keep a story straight for 72 hours, so they got to change the story.
And why was the perpetrator admitted to the hospital? What were his injuries?
They don't come out.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So, all right.
There's a lot of loose ends.
Okay, well, okay, all right. So this came up in the office today, and it was like, how come there's no body cam footage of the police that showed up? And I said, well, number one, do they have body cams? I believe they do. Number two, it's like, okay, it's been barely a week. I said the case is still being adjudicated. The stuff is open for discovery because this person gets a defense lawyer. It has to go through. This person is entitled to a legal defense and has rights. This person has been arrested and charged with crimes. And so they just can't start willy-nilly releasing stuff out of order or that's unusual unless it leaks somehow because there's evidentiary process and discovery that's going to happen to adjudicate this case. And this stuff's going to come out in due time. But it's like, yeah, they're not just going to release the stuff like the next day or 2 days later. It's going to come out in court. And so
possibly.
The 911...
why is he being held without bail in a cashless bail sanctuary city? Because it's Pelosi's husband?
Yeah, well, that's a very valid political question to ask. That's absolutely. If I was running for office of anything, I absolutely would be asking that question.
But yet, I'm sure there's people that did worse crimes, that signed away and got out on cashless bail. But because of the notoriety of the case, is that why he is still in jail? And did the Canadian consulate come and defend him, being he's a Canadian citizen? There's just so many loose ends.
Well, you know what? That's a good point that needs to be mentioned because he's a foreign national, technically in this country illegally. His case and his representation is probably going to have to be coordinated. Well, I don't know. You know what? Hold on. I'm gonna finish the thought, then I'm gonna go ahead and step on it and kill my thought. Has to be coordinated with the Canadian government because he's a Canadian citizen. It's like, well, wait a minute. How many times in California are they coordinating with the Mexican consulate every time Jose gets picked up gangbanging? You know what I mean? It's like, dude gets put on a retainer, an ice hold. And, if you're lucky.
The whole thing with this, and I think the entire nation sees it, they're not pulling the wool over everyone's eyes like they think they are. There's a shitload of unanswered questions, and people are asking hard questions, but there doesn't seem to be, discovery or not, I mean, I I wouldn't trust that police chief or the district attorney in San Francisco as far as I could throw them either, because they're
No,
beholding.
no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't trust them. I'm not trusting them. It's not a matter of trusting them. I mean, I don't know what I don't know here. Like, I mean, I think the real questions to ask here are: did this guy break into this house looking for Nancy Pelosi because he's looking for her and he got this wild hair up his crazy ass to go there and do a wild and crazy thing? Or has he had some prior contract, prior knowledge, prior reason, relationship with Pelosi, any of the Pelosi's, the House, or their schedule, or whatnot? Like, is this a first time contact or is this a acquaintance contact? Because
Well, I
we don't know the answer yet. The answer will come out. Like, okay, all right, hold on. I'm going to throw you a bone here. I'm going to throw you a bone because why isn't the body cam footage out? Why isn't this? Why isn't that? Because they're still working on things. They're it's the process, arraignment, dockets, assigning public defender. I got it. Okay, but I'm going to throw you a bone. Why isn't his arrest record been released? Has it? I don't believe it has.
I don't believe so either.
All I know is if I drove up to Columbus and on the way up stopped at the Lion's Den and picked up a big giant rubber dildo and then proceeded to show up at your house smacking you around the head with it until I got arrested, I'm pretty sure my rap sheet would be all over the internet within 5 minutes. I mean, hey, look, they'd be like, hey, due process for Marky. Was it a registered dildo or an unregistered dildo? Did he cross state lines with the dildo? Was it the first time he had the dildo? Was it Danny's dildo? Was it Marky's dildo? And all this other shit. But it's like my arrest record and like Marky, age 51, resides, city of Cincinnati. Blah, 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 arrested for this, arrested for that, whatever, has a large gun collection. That would be out. We're not hearing hardly anything about this guy. And that seems, let me just this way. Do you think this guy, when he was taken into custody at the Pelosi residence, that this was his first rodeo? First time at the rodeo of law enforcement?
No, because they have came out and said that he had an arrest record while an illegal alien, but being sanctuary city.
What's the arrest record?
They won't say. They won't elaborate on it.
Well, that's public record. Because here's the question. Okay, hold on. Here's the question. Because, all right, it's like, did this guy have a relationship with Pelosi? What was the nature of the relationship that they ever met before? Oh, this guy's been arrested 3 times by the narco cat team because he sells ecstasy down on these 3-block radius or whatever. He's an ecstasy dealer, and Paul Pelosi might have been buying ecstasy. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, this guy, he's been arrested for prostitution, importuning, and whatever over the past 5, 6, 7 years. Oh, so he's a known vice. He's a known known to the vice squad. Okay, that's a clue, but you're not hearing anything about his arrest. So all I've heard about this guy, is he's an illegal alien from Canada and something he hangs around or hung around with the nudist colony. That's literally all I've heard about this guy. What am I missing?
Do you actually think that he walked in yelling, "Where's Nancy?" Or is that a pure fabrication? If he walked in yelling anything, he looked at the old guy and go, "You're fancy." And he couldn't hear well, so he thought he said, "Where's Nancy?"
I see what you did there. I mean, look, do you think the 911 operator and the first responding officers are in on some kind of big collusion? They're not. They're just clearing the call, filling out the reports, on to the next thing. They got a long shift. They're working till 6 or 7.
Exactly. And, well, you and I both work midnights. But anyway, The thing of it is that there's just more than meets the eye with the unanswered questions.
Well,
It's like,
it's
and
obvious.
I still say there was a third party in there.
It may be. The thing. This is what it is. This where the conspiracy theorists are right to question a lot of this. Number one, where's the guy's arrest record? That's public record. What's his arrest record? I want to see his sheet. Does he have a little sheet? Does he have a big sheet? What's the nature of the crimes on his sheet? The other thing is they don't seem to want to let this thing play out. Watch your microphone. They don't.
Yeah,
want to see,
that was me.
Well, you just hit your mute button before you move.
I'm sorry, I had an itch.
Well, just hit your mute and then mute, scratch, and then it's like, Danny, watch your microphone. That's all I'm saying. But but like
you're lucky it wasn't my balls that were.
They're that's a different podcast. That's behind the paywall. Hey, Red Shoe.
And you wonder why I got invited to parties.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. Were you witness number 10 at the Danny Hastert trial?
No.
I'm just fucking with you.
I know.
But it's like they're so ham-handed with like, oh, well, there's 2 people and then there's 3 people. Oh, we're putting a story up, we're taking a story down, and it's like, if it was me and they were talking about me slapping you around with the Lion's Den dildo, and they reported something wrong,
savage,
or they had another. Savage, stop it. Like they were like, oh, it turns out he didn't buy the dildo from the Lion's Den. It came from his dildo collection.
I'll give you a half hour to stop.
My point is, they wouldn't pull the story and rewrite the story or pull it down and be like, this is not meeting journalistic standards. All they would do is they would put an addendum at the bottom, like November 4th, 3:73 p.m. It has come to our attention that Marky had his own personal dildo collection. It did not have to buy one at the Lion's Den. But the way they're doing this, it's so creepy. They're pulling stuff back. They're hiding things. That's where they're giving credence to the idea that they're obviously lying about shit.
Yeah, that's why the speculation is ensuing the way it is.
Okay, and this is the real world versus the conspiracy theory world. Okay, let's say I'm working we'll call it the video room, which that sounds like something off Cinemax. The video room at the Capitol Police, and I don't know how many cameras we have set up that are being monitored from the video room at any one time, but I'm fairly certain to say there'd be leadership from both parties, leadership from both houses, possibly some Senate select, House select security members. Maybe there's like individual, like maybe AOC has got some security because, she's been targeted by right-wing people, and maybe the woman that does the really bad pull-ups, what's her name? Green. She can't do a pull-up.
Marjorie. Yeah,
she can't do a pull. She can't do a fucking real pull-up to save her life. She's probably got a camera because she's getting threats. So all right. So let's just because I know how systems work and I know how people work. All right. And so there's people on the East Coast, people on the West Coast, 3-hour window. Yeah, but let's just assume it's about the same time, just for example's sake. And, most people. Maybe let's just say members of Congress. Good night, Congressman Cortez. Have a good night. Alarms on. We're watching your camera. Good night, Congresswoman Green. Blah blah blah. Good night, whatever. Maybe Congresswoman Green. She's young. She seems like she likes to party. She might roll in at 1:00 in the morning. And there's kind of a known schedule or thing, some 80-year-old congressman or senator that, is part of the whatever, like, Senator so-and-so, he's in bed by like 8:00 every night. And so it becomes, patterns, what's normal, what's not normal. But then every night for 2 years, it's nonstop at the Pelosi house. people coming and going, alarms getting turned on, alarms getting turned off, people setting off the alarm, clear, I'm sorry, set off the alarm, because for some reason, Pelosi, for whatever reason, it's just a lot of activity, and it's like constant. Just people in and out, whatever, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, all these problems. There comes a point when the people that are, quote, monitoring the cameras start putting less eye time on that, because it's like, yeah, that's fucking always going off. It's like always an alarm drop. It's always something. Whereas like if they see movement, if the camera picks up movement outside of Marjorie Taylor Greene's house, they're like, holy shit, call the district. Where it's like every night there's somebody walking in and out of Pelosi's house at 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, if you are paying attention to the example I'm giving you, you would realize I'm explaining to you the conspiracy here. And I'm giving it to you on a silver platter. If Paul Pelosi, he was out in the middle of the night drunk, wrecked his car, 2:30 in the morning, this dude showing up. For all we know, there's dudes showing up at the Pelosi house every night at 2:30 in the morning when Nancy's not in town. And then it becomes, this is now a national story, and I work for John1911 News, and I go, okay, on this date, this happened. We know the story. We know Paul was whatever, and someone showed up at 2:30 in the morning. Is that an unusual time? This is a normal question. Is that an unusual activity for there to be activity at 2:30 in the morning at the Pelosi residence? Because for most people, it might be like, well, it's kind of unusual. Maybe, the Pelosi's, Paul, he always gets in after 2 every Friday night because when Nancy's not in town. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, if you start to ask real questions about how things really work, very quickly you can start to figure out what's going on. If you want to know how people live, all you have to do is sit on their house. You know what's up. It's not that hard. And that's why they're all afraid of the cameras.
And here's another thing I'm thinking. Because of whatever went on, or whatever doesn't want to be acknowledged or whatever, are they going to make the Capitol Police the fall guy?
They did it to DH. They did it for the Customs and Border Patrol.
Right. When they were whipping them,
they were whipping the Haitian migrants when they weren't.
Right. So I'm thinking to remember, Washington, deflect. They're going to make some entry-level camera watcher, Capitol Police guy, the fall guy. Watch for that to come.
Well, there's a problem with that. You know the problem?
No.
The problem is that guy is entitled to tell his side of the story. If I'm the camera guy, Marky the camera guy, and I'm in the Cinemax room at the basement of the Capitol building, and they fire me, and they say it's my fault because the police could have been there before the man got in the house, and maybe that's even true. Like maybe there's a possibility that it's possible. You have to admit. You can't be so partisan that you assume that this attacker and Paul Pelosi knew each other, had a relationship, or somehow it was fucked up. It could be that maybe this was the one night that the crazy guy showed up, but they don't want to talk to Marky, the camera guy, because I'd be like, yeah, there's usually 1 or 2 guys coming in there every night when Nancy's not around. So I just figured it was another dude coming over. What?
Yeah, and it wasn't Bruce or Chip.
Yeah, it wasn't Bruce or Chip.
Or Biff.
Biff. No, I think Biff is an Ivy League lacrosse player. I don't think. I don't think Biff is.
Bruce and Chip.
Bruce and Chip.
That cracked me up sometimes.
Oh my god. Hey, we had Halloween recently. I want to take it just for funny. So
Did you get many trick or treaters?
no,
Oh, we had a ton.
we don't get. I haven't seen trick or treaters in years. But I have a cute, and it's hard as it is to believe, a funny story to make us all relate to the Kardashians. If you can actually believe that, it's hard to imagine. So apparently,
For trick or treaters.
well, for a Halloween thing. So apparently, Kim Kardashian went over to Tracy Ellis Ross. For an event, Tracy Ellis Ross is at. I just happen to know this for her 50th birthday. Tracy Ellis Ross is Diana Ross's daughter, and Tracy Ellis Ross, I believe, because I don't watch a lot of television, well, obviously unless it's Avoiding Shepard Smith on CNBC. If there's a show on TV called Blackish, if you've seen the show called Blackish on television, the wife in that show, because it's a black couple, it's a black family, Blackish. The wife, I believe, is Tracy Ross. It's Diana Ross's daughter. And then when you see her, you're like, oh, you kind of can see the face. I think she's Diana Ross's daughter. I think she's related to Diana Ross. But she was having a birthday. Well, it's Halloween, and the Kardashians, like they just like, oh, it's a Halloween party. It's a Halloween birthday party. Like you and I, if we're gonna go to a Halloween party, it's like, I don't know, I'll put a little hat on my head. I'm a cowboy. I'm John Wayne. Well, no, the Kardashians. Oh no, because they're the Kardashians. She showed up. I don't know what this outfit was, but she was in full makeup. She looked like one of those blue people off the movie Avatar. You ever seen the movie Avatar?
I haven't seen the movie, but I know exactly the.
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie either.
You're stating.
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen the trailers, and it's like full body blue paint, latex, whatever. There's some kind of creature,
right?
And literally, Kim Kardashian is in like Hollywood grade stage makeup. Shows up at this birthday party, and it's like, oh, honey, we're sorry, it's not a costume party. And she's like, oh, fuck. And she's walking around like this blue alien. Like, I mean, she looks like she's in this movie. Like, it's the makeup, it's crazy. And it's like, I kind of felt bad for her. It reminds me of the time I was in the 8th grade. I was in the 8th grade. And, I transferred schools and moved around. It was always kind of hard to know people. And there was this girl. And I thought she was so hot. And her family was rich. My perception of rich. And she was hot. Again, this is 8th grade. So 8th grade.
They had plumbing.
Yeah, they had stop. So
They didn't have a hand pump in the kitchen.
And so I she was having a Halloween party, and I was invited, and she invited me personally, and I was like, you're a kid, you're like, she invited me personally, like, oh my god, like, cool, like, and I was gonna really, this was gonna be it, buddy. This is my shot. I'm gonna shoot my shot. This is the girl. She's so hot. She's out of my league, and I'm gonna go to her Halloween party, and I'm gonna win this sumbitch. I'm gonna do it. And so
you're gonna rail her, huh?
I was 8th grade. I don't know what that means.
Doesn't matter.
Like rail her in 8th grade. I don't know what kind of school
you're from West Virginia. They get married in the 8th grade.
So stop. So this actually was
to their cousin.
This was actually in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. at the time. So
to their cousin.
So I can't remember what her father did. She was this kind of waspish girl, if you know what that kind of means for our listeners.
Yes.
So, 8th grade Marky. So like, I'd never been to this girl's house. I didn't like, all these kids went to school together. They knew each other from when they went, whatever. Well, like, we got assigned to crossing guard duty. And so like, we're the 8th grade 8th grade. And so, we have to make sure the little kids can cross the street. And so every day she would come by my crossing where I would cross from the school, and she would go down a road, and she obviously lived down at the end of this road. And I knew where she lived because she walked by me every day. It's like, she's down there. And, so I was at home, and I did this whole big outfit, whatever this thing was. I got skeleton with fucking make shit on my face and all this stuff. And my dad, and I'm like, can you drive me over? I'm going to this party. And we go over by the school. We go down this road because there's nothing there. There's no lights. There's no party. There's no cars. And I'm like, I'm like, what the fuck? I never made it to the party because I couldn't find the party. She lives on the street. I don't understand. Turns out, the next week, I was like so deflated, and this made me think of it with Kim Kardashian. I was talking to her, I was like, yeah, I didn't see you at the party. I'm like, well, I was coming, but I went down the road and I thought I would just see your house because she's like, you know where I live? I'm like, yeah, I know where you live because you live down this road. Well, it turns out she would walk down this road from the school, and then she would cut through backyards, whatever, to get to her family's house, which was like many streets over. Like, how the hell am I supposed to know that? And that was my first probably really public disappointment with a girl as a young man. And I never forget that feeling that night, like, oh fuck, this is really happening. I can't even find this goddamn party. And this was before cell phones, by the way. No one had cell phones. We didn't have beepers. It was before beepers. I mean, you didn't, like my parents didn't know how to call this girl's parents. I mean, it was, yeah. So I was thinking of Kim Kardashian, all dressed up, showing up at this fancy party, looking like a Smurf. And she's like, oh shit. So my point is, it can happen to you too. If it can happen to Kim, it can happen to you.
I'll bet you wrote down addresses ever since.
I just geotagged their asses. I just been stalking them ever since. No. No. I'm in the trees with binoculars. Like, I got you now.
Yeah. Like in Back to the Future, you fall out of the tree. That's the third one this week.
Speaking of Back to the Future, have you seen the latest Madonna video?
No, I try to avoid that at all costs.
And, look, Kanye West has been in the news. Kanye West is he's mentally ill. Madonna,
but he's got billions of dollars to do it.
Well, he's lost apparently $1 billion of value, supposedly with all this drama, him being anti-Semitic. Madonna is obviously mentally ill. She was a superstar at a very young age, and became this, and it's just like you see these people, and you start to realize, like, remember the girl? Like, I sent you the story on the model that they were following her around, and she looked like she was high. Carla Delvine,
right?
Whatever. Yeah,
right.
Well, she's showing up. She got sores. I mean, she's a crack whore. She is strung out of her mind, but she comes from a famous family. She showed up at some function a couple weeks ago looking like $1 million, professional makeup, whatever. Maybe they got her cleaned up. But, you can just, even though she looks good and she showed up, looked happy and healthy, it's like, yeah, she's strung out. She's fucked up. Madonna's fucked up. Kanye's fucked up. There's a lot of these people, they go through life because they don't live right. Like, I remember when Christy Brinkley was going through a really bad divorce, and it came out in the trial, or in the divorce, because it was a contentious divorce, that she's been clinically diagnosed with a narcissistic personality disorder, and it actually affects how she lives her life. But if you think about it, she's the Uptown Girl. Billy Joel was writing songs about her when she was 19 or 17 or 15. I don't know how old. Christy Brinkley was like hotter than the sun at one point. And, it just screwed up her whole mind on how to relate to the universe. And, when we talk about politics, or we talk about Hollywood, or we talk about celebrities, or we talk about these people, I always try to keep in mind that, whether it's Nancy Pelosi or the Trumps or the Kennedys or whomever, the Clintons. A lot of them they've been cooked by the microwave of public scrutiny that their brains are fried as people.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, their judgment, how they relate to people, how they talk. It's that they're not they're fucked up. There's a lot of them that are fucked up, and so sometimes you don't get the full answer as to why every night at 2:00 in the morning, Chip and Jock show up at Paul Pelosi's house.
Bruce,
Chip and Bruce.
And
Chip and
Oh, Bruce, stop it. Just old Chip off the block. Oh, I get it.
So, okay, since you've been following politics, tell me this, because I've been dealing with the range and stuff. Are we about to run out of diesel? Is that real?
Yes, it's more than real. I was talking, Mrs. Danny's family is all farmers, and I was talking to them. And, every farmer there is cries poor mouth, but, I actually had to run into Liar's Corner, and because it also doubles as a butcher shop. And they were all talking about the price and the price of grains and everything going on, and they are actually going to lose money, this year only because of how high the fuel is, and the grains are not, getting at market where they really should be, and they're worried about getting their crops in before there is a shortage of fuel.
Oh,
because
shit.
it's harvest time. Yeah, it's harvest time.
Well, they're about done with harvest, aren't they? I mean, harvest is about over.
Yeah, it's about done. It rained like you might get it tomorrow, but it rained like hell here, so that they're going to lose 2 days right there. And some of these big farmers that are doing thousands of acres, you got the corn head on the combine, you get all the corn done, and then they hit beans or vice versa. And that's a lot of work to change it and everything. And, the corn has to, depends on the moisture content. If you're running 8 to 12%, you got to dry it. There's a lot of things going on.
Yeah, their moisture and all of it's important.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah. I know that. Remember, I live in a farming community.
I was actually, the average podcast listener would think you live like, every time you see the news of a guy driving down the street in Chicago, hanging out the car, shooting a gun in the air, that's in front of your house.
Used to be.
Okay.
It used to be. I went even more deep south of suburbia. You know what I mean? It's like when I got out of the city, I wanted out.
I didn't know you were that far out. I thought you were more in the city. You have to. Well, when we meet on Monday, we'll be talking about all that because we have a meeting on Monday.
Yeah. That's right. We have a board of directors meeting.
Mm-hmm, board of directors. The chief political correspondent's got to give me what his projected calls are before Tuesdays.
Oh, that's right. And Wednesday, for our listeners, we're going to try to do a results pod, which could be very interesting on which way Congress goes.
I mean, it looks pretty certain to me that obviously that I think it's fair. It looks like the Republicans are even going to take the Senate this time.
I hope so, because it's going to. If anything, I would just love to see Schumer demoted. More than anything, I just want to see that guy not in the speaker's role.
Or he's not speaker, the majority leader.
Yeah, he's speaker, Schumer.
No. Speaker's only in the House. That's majority leader.
He's president of the Senate or whatever they
they call it the majority leader.
You're right, whatever they call it. But I mean, now out of nowhere, New Hampshire is in play to where a Republican might win the Senate.
Was it New Hampshire or was it Wisconsin?
Both. Well, Ron Johnson is an incumbent from, he's running against Mandela Barnes in Wisconsin. But in New Hampshire, which has been a Democrat for a long time, it could be close. I always said and I'm going to stick to my prediction, which I've made over 2 months ago. Herschel Walker will be the difference in winning the majority.
Well, I think there'll be more of a majority than he will be to be the difference. But it looks like if you look at, well, I would say Herschel Walker is a terrible candidate.
Yeah, he is. It's
We can finally admit that Herschel Walker is a fucking disaster.
But he's honest.
Well,
I mean, come on.
You know,
he honestly told them what they wanted to hear about, sending women.
He honestly told them bitches to shut the fuck up. Is what he did. Bitch, you better shut up. I'm honestly gonna beat you in your ass.
Yeah, but if you've read some of Warnock's,
no, he's hardly any better.
Right, exactly. But Herschel is getting a boatload of the Christian Bible Belt vote.
The only reason, in my opinion, Herschel Walker wins is because it's a Republican year, it's a wave year, and Brian Kemp. Because it's a hard time believing that Brian Kemp, who's running for governor, people are gonna, and he's way up. People are gonna vote for Kemp.
And take Herschel along with them,
and then turn around and split tickets and vote for Warnock.
No,
they're not going to do that. So, no. But the reality is, he's a terrible candidate, and the Republicans are damn lucky. It's a wave year because he should lose.
Well, here's the thing,
and this is why Mitch McConnell doesn't like these kinds of candidates.
Well, they'll also tell Mitch McConnell where the bears shit in the woods too. Here's the thing.
You're not telling Mitch McConnell to do shit. Are you kidding me? Junior senator from Georgia? They don't get. I mean, and the Republican. What Mitch McConnell is going to do everything the Republicans want. Mitch McConnell is unfortunately for people that want to shit on Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell was the reason why Donald Trump's presidency was successful. Not because of Donald Trump. It's because of Mitch McConnell.
Well, here's what I want to see. If Fetterman and Walker both win, I want to see a debate on the floor between those two.
That would be okay. All right. Let's talk about Fetterman and Oz. My opinion is, because this is a political episode. Look, I think I said this already. If Oz isn't up by 6.3%, ideally 6.5%, I think they can steal it from him. Because I think Pennsylvania is as dirty as the day is long, and I said this before. I've been saying it for years, and I know people in Pennsylvania probably don't want to hear it. So it's not like I live in Ohio. Let me preface this so I can give equal time to shitting on states. Ohio used to be almost as bad, really just as bad as Pennsylvania because we have Cleveland and Youngstown. Okay. But
and Cincinnati.
Well, yeah, Cincinnati. No, Cincinnati was always conservative until the past maybe 20 years. Cincinnati was always a pretty conservative town. However, we had, even our Republicans are douchebags. Again, names people may recognize or not recognize. But there's, we had the Taft family here, Bob Taft and all those losers, Voinovich. And his loser fucking attitude. We've got Mike DeWine here that, he literally signed constitutional carry this year in Ohio because basically the guerrilla warfare that the conservative pro-gun movement in Ohio did to him practically scared the man into doing it. And so on Tuesday, when he's running for re-election, as much as I hate Mike DeWine, I will vote for Mike DeWine because I'm not going to vote for Commie Nan Whaley. And Mike DeWine, he signed constitutional carry. And it's I know he didn't want to do it, but he did it. So, all right, that's politics. And that's how it is. But, even before then, we had Metzenbaum here. And who's Howard Metzenbaum? He was a senator from Ohio. And Howard Metzenbaum, if you're a gun person, most of you are, listen to this podcast, if you've ever shot the national matches at Camp Perry, and you remember a time, if you went to the national matches and you could shoot across the course and there would be National Guardsmen working the pits, target goes up, shoot, strings down, Target comes down, mark the hits. Target goes up to show the hits and work the targets and work the pits. Those were run by National Guardsmen because Camp Perry is an Ohio National Guard base. Howard Metzenbaum decided, he got it up his wild-ass butt. He's like, why do we have National Guardmen working these gun matches? And so he was able to push through with somebody that they stopped doing that. It was his idea. And so now what they do is they have to run shooters in relays. Group of shooters in the pits, group of shooters on the line. Shoot it, and then they have to walk them all back and forth, and they all have to dump their gear, get their gear, and get set up, find their lanes, and then do it, shoot, up, down, do it again. And a lot of the times now with the shooters, a lot of them being older and older and older, I mean, it's to the point the national matches in Camp Perry are just fucked up. I'm saying all that to say this. It took a long time to burn these shitheads out of the state. Ohio used to be, every 4 years you would hear this, as goes Ohio, so goes the country. A Republican cannot win the presidency without winning Ohio. You would hear all that stuff. Well, that was true when Ohio was a purple state. But Ohio is becoming more and more and more conservative, principally because young people leave Ohio, but neither here nor there. So we're getting these people out of here. Pennsylvania is 30 years behind us, 40 years behind us. Pennsylvania is dirty. We all know Pennsylvania is dirty. Pennsylvania is full of these commies like Fetterman. And, unless Oz is up by over 6 percentage points in the polls, when they're counting up the votes, I'm sure that they will not have the votes counted in Pennsylvania by 8 a.m. the next morning or by 11 o'clock that night.
Oh, no, there's got to be 3 a.m.
You'll be like 3 a.m. Motherfucker, it'll be a week. It will be a week in Pennsylvania. And that's what tells me that's your clue. That's your clue. If Oz is literally up by 2 percentage points against Fetterman, legitimately, he's 2%. In most cases, hey, 2% is 2%. And, that's a win. In Pennsylvania, it ain't enough for them from stealing it. And I believe that to be true until someone proves to be not to be true. I've seen too much. People know how dirty Philadelphia is.
Well, you know what's going to happen is that if the western states, let's say Pennsylvania's not done counting, if the western states come in, and mark my words, if the western states come in before Pennsylvania is done counting and the Republicans have 51, then out of nowhere, Pennsylvania will finish counting. Because they know it's a lost cause then. But they'll finish.
I don't know. Maybe it depends. Yeah, you're right. It depends. It's very possible. Okay, here's another one. Mark Kelly versus, I can't remember the guy's name in Arizona. I would have said Kelly was going to win this. Look, I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative. But I have to give props where props are due. As a politician in Arizona, Mark Kelly is a good politician. He's very popular. And I would have said he's going to win. But right now, it looks like leaning possibly it could be Republican.
If Kerry Lake drags them on the coattails.
That certainly doesn't hurt. That's just like Kemp in Georgia. Kerry Lake is super interesting to me.
Yes, she is. She calls it like it is.
We'll have to see. Now she has to get a record. Now she has to get a record as an actual executive of a state to see if she's got an actual future.
Blake Masters.
But that. But here's the thing, let me put it this way: if Oz is just as terrible of a candidate, if not more terrible, than Herschel Walker is in Georgia, and Oz is one of these Peter Thiel guys, just like Vance here in Ohio. If Oz wins Pennsylvania, I have to do the math, but it could be like 54 Republican senators. If Oz can win, they're all fucking winning.
Right.
For some reason, if it happens for some miracle at 11 o'clock on Tuesday night, they call Pennsylvania for Oz, you can just go to bed because it's over. It's going to be a wipeout.
I won't be able to go to bed because you'll have me up all night watching every news show.
Danny is actually, his job is on these heavy political nights. So what happened was, and how Danny ended up getting his position over here is, it's my fault. Well, one, I hired you, but two, when I missed the Donald Trump win. Because the night of the election, and this literally happened. We even talked about it on podcast. You know, it's like it's Tuesday night. It's like, oh yeah, we're waiting for Pennsylvania to come in. It comes down to, and I remember here in Pennsylvania and literally saying to myself, "Fuck you, Pennsylvania. I'm not staying up all night to wait for you to break my heart again because you're fucked up." And so I went to bed. I was like, yeah, whatever. Hillary's, you know. I literally, it wasn't until the next morning that I woke up and it was like, what do you mean Donald Trump's president? Like, that literally happened to me. I'm like, what? Donald Trump won? You know, and all those people that went through all the stuff all night, like at 2 o'clock through, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, I missed all of that. And so
me.
Yeah, not Danny, because Danny's emailing and texting and talking to Freeze and sending stuff to me, and it's like, we got to bring this fucking guy on board because he'll stay up and watch his shit all night. So,
what I do, did you see where Liz Cheney has now endorsed a second Democrat?
I have.
She is being fueled by pure hatred for Trump. That's exactly what it is.
That bitch has lost her fucking mind.
Pretty much.
Because, okay, all right, because look, I'm a conservative. I'm a Republican. You know, look, when Liz Cheney took a position against Trump, especially after January 6th, I'm not unsympathetic to her position. What I mean is, I can kind of see where she's coming from. She's like, a lot of the old guard Republicans don't like Trump because he shakes up the apple cart. And they want to be the leaders, not him. And now they could use January 6th as the way to finally get him out of the party. And that's what she went. And, it's like, okay, so she's pissed at Trump, wants to go after him. Okay, fine. I get it. Do I agree with it? No. I get it. What does any of that principled conservative have to do with Nancy? She's come out and she said, quote, Nancy Pelosi's been an incredible leader. She came out and she said, what the hell? Liz Cheney came out. I can't remember the other one she came out for. And then she came out and she said, Ron DeSantis is like an evil Nazi or something like Donald Trump.
Yeah, he's the devil.
Devil. And this is when look, and it's like, okay, all right, Ron DeSantis, the media's kind of making Ron DeSantis out to be a lot of things that he's not. That's fine. Then she came out and she shit on Vance, J.D. Vance here in Ohio. And I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? What in holy fucking shitballs is going on here? Because let's talk about J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is, he's the guy that wrote Hillbilly Elegy. He enlisted in the Marine Corps, raised by his grandmother because his mother is strung out on dope in Middletown, Ohio, right up the street. Joined the Marine Corps, went to Yale, went out to California, got involved in venture capitalists. Peter Thiel made a ton of money, blah, blah, blah. Moves back to Ohio because it's obvious. They're like, you should run for senator one day. You're great. And he comes here. He doesn't really live here. I mean, actually, I know exactly where his house is. Like, I know exactly where they screwed up on hiding his house, and I found it. I'm not going to give how they screwed up because it would give it away. But y'all made a mistake if you're listening, and I found his house. And J.D. Vance is a never Trumper. He shit on Trump. J.D. Vance is not a Donald Trump guy. He's not a bomb thrower. He's not all this stuff. He's I mean, Fox News practically coronated J.D. Vance as the nominee. If you watched Fox News for the previous year, you would have thought that J.D. Vance was the Republican senator from Ohio for the past year, because it was like, yeah, J.D. Vance and all this, and there's all these other people running in Ohio that actually live here that were better candidates than J.D. Vance. But Fox News, mainstream Republican guard, Fox News, like, J.D. Vance is the one, so we're going to tell you he's the one. And Peter Thiel put all the money in, and he ends up winning. And then what does fucking goddamn Liz Cheney do? She comes out and goes against J.D. Vance. The fact that she would go against J.D. Vance, and he is as much of an establishment as she is, tells me she is completely compromised. Her motivations are no longer altruistic. They're suspect. Bitch is fucking crazy. She has lost her fucking mind. She's turned into the Lincoln Project people.
Oh my God. Well, she's mad at me because I called for her demise the day that she went on the committee. Did I not? Did I not?
The chief political correspondent and Danny was like, Danny got on this very podcast. If we had a producer, I'd have him dig it up and roll in it. You were like, she is done. You were like, she is done. Trump is going to get her. He's going to get her thrown out. She is done. And I'm sitting here like, dude, Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney's daughter, old guard Republicans, big time donor money, has the backing of the party, the backing of the establishment, just like the Bushes. It's like, you ain't going to get rid of fucking Liz Cheney for shit. Wrong. Here's the thing. You called Liz Cheney's death before anybody in the national media called it. You were like this. You basically were like, they're gonna take this bitch out behind the barn and shoot her. And I'm like, you're crazy. Really, the Cheneys in Wyoming? Really? You were right. And not only were you right,
that's gotta hurt.
Not only were you right, you've now been vindicated, because she's obviously the child of a successful politician, which means she's a moron. The fact that she would go anywhere near criticizing J.D. Vance means...
Yeah, speaking about that, in your state, will Vance Ryan, what do you like? Not what you like.
Ryan's not even close.
The mainstream media is trying to make it look like he is.
No. Vance has pretty much had it in the bag for a few months now. I mean, I was pretty pissed off at Vance over the summer because he wasn't running any campaign ads, and I'm like, where is this fucking guy?
And now it's flooded with it.
He was doing no press conferences, no meet and greets, and running no campaign ads. And I was getting real nervous. And I got on this podcast pissed off. I'm like, what are you doing?
And didn't I tell you that the last 2 weeks before the election, you're going to see flooded airwaves?
After September 1st, it always starts September 1st. But what it ultimately worked out to be, what it appears, is it's not abortion. Look, earlier in the year or into last year, what's going to be the wave economy? What's going to be? It's like, well, abortion's going to destroy the republic, or abortion's going to be the issue. Afghanistan's...
Oh my God, it's in every campaign ad for Democrats.
I know. Abortion's going to be the issue. Afghanistan's going to be the issue. What the hell else? There was, I can't. Yeah, I mean, that's how non-relevant a lot of this is, because you can't even remember the issue. Right now, the only two issues that matter in this entire election are inflation and violent crime.
That's right. And yet the Democrats are doing nothing about it. On New Year's, January 1st, Illinois is now a cashless bail state.
Yeah. Yeah, that's stupid. But hold on. as chief political correspondent, I got to give you props. When was the brief leaked out of the Supreme Court that they had the votes to overturn Roe? Was that in May?
Yeah, like 2 weeks before they actually came out.
Yeah, but that was in May, and so this became a huge issue. Everybody was talking about it. This is going to energize the Democrats. This could be bad timing for Republicans. We're going into the election season. This is, whatever. And you got on this very podcast and you said, violent crime, violent crime, violent crime. This won't matter. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
You were right. And here we are. It's November, and it's violent crime, violent crime, violent crime. You were right again. So this is turning into calling your balls and strikes for the whole year.
Hey, I can associate with that. Well, you'll see at our dinner meeting that I'm pretty good at putting my hand behind my back and patting. No help needed. Double jointed my ass. I'm a fucking contortionist when it comes to giving myself props. Let's just say dinner's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Monday. You know what? I probably will bring the Porsche. So
that's fine.
It'll be a good time. So you want me?
Yeah, it's good. It's going to be a very good time. Well, I'll tell you more. I don't want to.
Yeah, we've been going for over 90 minutes. So let's go ahead and do the police blotter, and we'll go ahead and get out of here. So
all right,
I've got 2 stories from Ohio and 1 story from California, and the 2 Ohio stories are local to me. They're local stories.
Let's hear them.
So first one, Franklin, Ohio, which is a small town up I-75 north of us. Franklin, Ohio, burglar found hiding in shed after homeowner shoots him in the butt. I thought that was a good story. Just, shoot, who doesn't want to get a chance to shoot someone in the ass? I was like, they found him in a shed, whatever. I thought that was pretty good. Now, east of us, police blotter, Brown County, Ohio. I think it was Georgetown, or was it? I think it was Georgetown. I think it was Georgetown Police. Brown County man dies after gun discharges in his front sweatshirt pocket. So there was a guy. He was out in his yard, and he was doing stuff, and he had a gun. And as a matter of fact, when his girlfriend found him outside on the ground, I think dead. So she called. The police show up. They're like, "What the fuck?" And so they're patting him down for weapons. They find a gun in his sweatshirt, in his front pockets, like a pullover hoodie. The gun, it's a semi-automatic. The gun, there is a shell casing in his pocket that had been fired, and the gun is jammed forward where a piece of the sweatshirt had caught between the hood of the barrel and the breech face and locked up because it had discharged in the pocket against his body while he was out there doing stuff without a holster.
Well, there's a good argument for empty chamber.
Well, it's a good argument for carrying a gun in a holster.
That's true, too.
Yeah, if you're going to carry a gun in a pocket, you got to have like a little pocket holster. You have sleeves for that. Final story, Lacey, California. This one is crazy. Crazy.
I can believe it because, remember, I was just in California. I hated it.
Yeah. Lacey, California, husband and wife, Asian descent. I think they were going through some kind of divorce. So the man comes home one day. He proceeds to start beating and taping up his wife, bounding her up, beating her up, drug her into the garage. She's in the garage. And she has an iPhone on, and while she's got the iPhone on, she's like, and she's like, my husband, he's trying to kill me. You got to protect me. Husband comes back into the garage. She's talking on her phone, rips off the iPhone watch, smashes it, and loads her into a van and drives away. Responding police show up. Turns out the iPhone watch was still working, the iWatch, and actually you can hear, Lacey Police Department, make yourself known, like they're clearing the house. And this guy, he took his wife out into the woods, like 7 miles away, stabbed her, and then dumped her into a hole that he had dug, buried her in the hole, and then covered the hole up with a giant like tree or log on top of it, and left her for dead. Hours later, she digs her way out of the grave and runs for help. She's still alive, and he's arrested.
Wow.
And at his hearing, because we're talking about no bail, she is before the judge, and she says, quote, "Please do not give him bail. I am fear for my life that he will show up and kill me again." Let that hang over you there for a minute.
And did the judge grant bail?
I believe he did not get bail. And that wraps up episode 277 of the John 1911 Podcast. If you want to see number stories or pictures or links, please go to our website at John1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good night.
Good night, Bruce. Bye-bye.
What's the other name? Bruce and who?
Chip.
Good night, Chip.
Bye.
See you, bye.